So in terms of today's roughly 2.5-hour webinar and seminar, the schedule for today, I'll describe what is social media and why do we care about that. Consider that Social Media 101. And then Don Bettinelli will show how easy it is to create social media sites for your parishes and how to make it efficient for you. And that's, I would say, social media maybe 1001. And then Steve McDevitt, our Director of IT, will go through a lot of the guidelines for using social media safely, integrating what Dom and I and the industry says are best practices in terms of social media with some guidelines by the U.S. Bishops' Conference and our own General Counsel's office here. And then we'll have at least a half an hour at the end to take your questions and to get very practical if you want to get very practical on that. In terms of the folks that you've met on your way in, folks that are here to help parishes with this, Don Bettinelli is the Director of Pilot New Media. He's really the architect behind all that we'll share with you today. Carla Gonzalez and Anna Johnson probably greeted you on the outside. Rick Heil produces The Good Catholic Life, but he's also a new media whiz, so he helps us all with that. George Martell is doing the live stream for us today over Boston Catholic Live, and Stacia Morabito oversees bostoncatholic.org, the official website of the Archdiocese. And then Steve McDevitt, who you'll meet later, has been the Director of IT here for pretty close to a year, Steve, almost. Not happy anniversary stage yet, though. Okay, so a little bit about us. Catholic Media Secretariat was established about a year and a half ago, July 1st, 2010. As I'm sure you've heard, Pope Benedict has called the Church to embrace media tools to share the good news of Jesus Christ. Cardinal Sean wanted to put all the tools of media evangelization into one secretariat, so he created a new one. The theory is if we're all in the same group, we can leverage each other's content and share it more effectively across all of our media platforms. So essentially we have three different groups. Catholic TV Network, not only the television station, but a nice little website app that can go on your website that can share Catholic TV content, and their website, catholictv.com. What we call the Pilot Media Group, which includes the Pilot newspaper, Pilot Catholic Directory, or how it was formerly known, the Boston Catholic Directory, the Pilot Bulletins and Pilot Printing, and the group that's really putting this on today that Dom heads up, Pilot New Media. And then we have our Radio Apostolate, which helps collaborate with the different Catholic radio stations in the area and produces the Good Catholic Life radio show each day at 4. So, general purpose of my presentation is the why. Why should we embrace digital media? Why should we embrace social media? Pope Benedict has really articulated this in a compelling way. He said in his message for World Communication Day 2 years ago, "Without fear, we must set sail on the digital sea, putting into the deep with the same passion that has governed the ship of the Church for 2,000 years. We want to qualify ourselves by living in the digital world with a believer's heart, helping to give a soul to the internet's incessant flow of communication." So essentially, millions of people, more than 1/10 of the world's population is on Facebook every day, as we'll share. That's where the people are. That's where we need to be. But the way that we need to be there needs to be with a believer's heart so that we can give a soul to new and social media. Within the United States, Bishop Ron Herzog from Louisiana, who chairs the Communications Committee for the U.S. Bishops' Conference, addressed all of his bishops in 2011 with these words: "Although social media has been around for less than 10 years, it does not have the makings of a fad. We're being told that it is causing as fundamental a shift in communication patterns and behaviors as the printing press did 500 years ago." And then Bishop Herzog said to his brother bishops, and I don't think I need to I have to remind you of what happened when the church was slow to adapt to the printing press. And in some ways that led to the opening that the Protestant Reformation filled. So Bishop Herzog was definitely trying to address a skepticism on the part of bishops, in my opinion, that, you know, this is just this new technology. Why do we need to embrace it with gusto in the church? And he was very much trying to say the stakes are very large. Not that any pastors or parish staff members in the Archdiocese would consider this a fad, but that's why, you know, we want to share it with you. The Pope and the U.S. bishops are embracing digital media, and we're hoping that all of our parishes do also through our help. So what are the most important forms of digital or social media? Certainly parish websites, and we had our first new media forum this past October on parish website best practices. If you weren't here for that and would like those materials, you can go on this website that's in your handouts, pilotnewmedia.com/parish websites. The whole recording of that and all the handouts are on that page. And then there are mobile applications for your phones or iPads or other tablet devices, and various versions of websites that take the same material and make it easier to view. And then there's social media, which we're talking about today. There are also blogs, and then video. And the video the video posts on YouTube and Vimeo and Ustream are interactive. You'll see many comments on those videos. And the Catholicism Project that I took that prayer from at the beginning, Father Robert Barron put that together. He's a diocesan priest from Chicago, but he's been known for many years in the church of posting little YouTube videos, and a lot of folks that aren't Catholic watch his videos, and then they comment and he responds on YouTube. So it's a very good form of social media, and it's been very effective for him at trying to reach out to atheists and agnostics and Catholics who have some really fundamental questions about our faith. So diving down into the topic for today, what is social media? Versus websites and mobile devices. Social media is a type of online media that allows and fosters conversation and dialogue among groups of people. So it's intended to foster that dialogue or conversation. Traditional media, up until social media was launched several years ago, typically delivered content in broadcast fashion. One person produces it, tries to hit as many ears or eyes as possible, but it really didn't have that built-in and easy mechanism for folks to respond and then to begin a conversation with not only the person that posts that material, but the other people who are listening or reading that material and getting involved in a conversation. An internet marketing consultant said social media essentially is a category of online media where people are talking, participating, sharing, networking, or bookmarking online. I would add to that connecting with other people online. So there are many different types of social media sites, but we're going to focus on the two largest that have been around for several years, and then one that's probably going to be larger than these other two very shortly. So the ones that have been around for a while, and you've heard the names, I'm sure, Facebook and Twitter, and then about half a year ago, Google Plus launched, and now almost has 100 million people on it, and that's going to reach 1 billion sometime, not too far in the future. And we'll get into all of those in much more detail. So Facebook, if you haven't used it, think about it like an online bulletin board where you can post updates on your life, your thoughts on anything going on in the world, some photos, links to interesting websites, and then get people to either share that with other friends or to comment back to you. Twitter has a similar function, but it's limited to 140 characters. I think that's about 30, 35 words, something like that. That creates a faster paced and more concise or pithy style of conversation and sharing. When I look for articles on the Catholic Church, often I'll find those articles because of someone posting a link on Twitter. And then Google Plus, according to the folks at Google, combines the best aspects of Facebook and Twitter and it eliminates a lot of Facebook's clutter, which some heavy users of Facebook had complained about for a while. But it gives a little bit more flexibility than Twitter, and it has a different way to group your friends that you would share information with. They call it the circle. So Dom's going to get into a lot more of that. If any of those words are new to you, you're not alone in this session, and Dom will explain that in much more detail. So Facebook, 800 million active users. Just about 6 months ago or 7 months ago, it was about 500 million. So I think that there are only 7 billion people in the world. So it's more than 10% of the entire world's population. It's not just U.S. That focuses on Facebook. Facebook says more than 50% of those people, or 400 million people in the world each day, log in to get updates on Facebook or to post messages on Facebook. The average Facebook user connects to 80 different groups or events and has 130 personal friends. So how many use Facebook today? Okay, so looks about 2/3 of you. How many use Twitter today? Okay, about 1/3. Anybody use Google Plus? 1.5, it looks like. All right. Maybe that'll be a little bit higher at the end of today. All right. So Twitter reports that they have 500 million users total by this March. And then of that, similar to Facebook, about half use it on a daily basis or will by the end of 2012, they report. And then Google Plus, it launched publicly in November. 90 million users already. They think that they'll have 400 million by the end of 2012. And it really takes social media up to the next level because it integrates the search capability of Google into the way Google Plus operates. So that changes the dynamics of how many of your friends or folks within your circle on Google Plus would see information. If somebody that's logged into Google Plus, and Dom will explain this, does a search on anything, search on Catholic, if they're part of your circle of friends on Google Plus, it makes it much easier for them to find you and find the church that you're connected with, so that they might be sitting next to you when it comes to Sunday Mass. So there's been this general thrust since Facebook came out in the mid, around 2006, 2007, that folks have said, isn't social media a waste of time? And we've heard that a lot in the church. We're so busy. We don't need another thing. No, not another way for people to contact me, certainly not another thing to do. And is anybody really going to read it? How effective is it? How effective is it? Well, many studies show that people's use of Facebook and Twitter not correlate to them, becoming antisocial and just sitting behind their computer in a darkened basement for a long time. There are many studies that say those that are more social online or through social media are more social offline. And my theory for that is the more you're hearing updates from friends that you haven't seen in a while or that you can't connect face-to-face, the more likely it is for you to say, it's really been too long since I saw you. Let's see if we can schedule a time to get together or for our families to get together, something like that. And one particular group, and I can testify this is true for my wife, it's become an essential medium for moms. Moms spend more time online than the general population, highly active on Facebook. 62% of American mothers say that they have a profile there. So my wife, when she's just looking for recommendations of a piano teacher or something in town or any sort of local service, she typically goes on her Facebook now and just posts a little question. Anybody have a recommendation on this or that? And because the folks who are responding to her are people that she has decided to include in her circle of communication, that level of recommendation is a strong level for her, and she'll usually go for it. Secondly, it's very efficient for her. It takes her a minute perhaps to post that question, and then soon within 24 hours she's got a lot of personal recommendations, much easier than calling 50 friends on the phone. So why is social media important to our parishes and our various ministries within our parishes or at the diocesan level or several of our apostolates? A Few reasons. One, after people check their email, the most common website they go to every day is Facebook. I can admit I don't post a lot on Facebook each day, but on my iPhone every day, the first thing that I check is what are the emails that have come in overnight, which ones do I need to respond to now, and then before I check out, Boston.com for news or various Catholic websites, I'll always go to Facebook and get that too. And it's just, I don't know what it is about that and why I go there versus the news, but I certainly do fit into the category of this. It's become a place for people to have a profile even if they don't use it except as a way to be connected. So you just say, hey, if my friends are out there posting information and the only way they tend to communicate updates in their lives is through Facebook, I want to be able to follow what they're doing. Similarly, if there's parish events, it would be great if instead of having to read it in bulk in the parish bulletin or to go search it out myself on the parish website, that every now and then a little blurb hits my Facebook that says, oh, there's a reminder, there's this event going on at the parish tonight. It's a permanent way for people to contact you and a place where people can connect with you even if they change their email or phone number. I've had that happen to me many times since I've been on Facebook, or folks that I went to high school with. The only way that the most efficient way for them to find me was through searching within Facebook for Scott Landry's in the general Boston or Lowell area, and they end up finding me that way. People use it to find information about the things that are trending in their own heads. What are they going to do on Friday night? What's a good movie to see, or TV shows, or various causes, events, or organizations. And then Twitter allows you to share it in short bursts. A lot of people use Twitter on your mobile phone, which is turning to be much more powerful than the normal computer in terms of sharing information on the go. So one of the things that Dom and I and the others in Pilot New Media have been thinking about a lot, and we don't have all the ideas yet together, but if and when pastoral planning moves forward in the Archdiocese, and I'll double underline the if it moves forward, I think when pastoral service teams are formed and the pastoral collaboratives, that it might be a great opportunity to embrace social media as a way to share information very efficiently with people in multiple parishes by using some of the devices that Dom will share that can publish the same link or the same paragraph of information on multiple social media sites all at once. So you can centralize the way you share that information out, and then you can certainly do more with less. So we'll be working hard over the next year or two, if pastoral planning goes forward, to try to figure out a way that social media can make the life in the parish service teams much more effective and efficient. So before I'm done and introduce Dom, we do have this book on the Church in New Media. It's a phenomenal book. For those who are particularly new in social media, it really explains a lot of stuff by 12 different chapter authors. And it was just recommended this week by the Vatican head of social communications, Monsignor Paul Tai, which was interesting to just see the Vatican recommending a book. So, if you want this book, the first person that answers this trivia question. As you know, Cardinal Sean was the first cardinal in the world to have a blog. What was the purpose of Cardinal Sean's trip that became the first entries in his blog when he formed it in September of 2006? It wasn't his red hat, but pretty close. No, that was 2005, I believe. So this was September of 2006, Father. You're getting closer. It wasn't when he went to receive the pallium as an archbishop, but it has something to do with taking possession of something because he's a cardinal. All right. I'll get you a book, Father Jack. Since you and Father Rock had it at the same time, we'll get you both copies. But it's when Cardinal Sean went to claim his titular church in Rome about 6 months after he was named a cardinal, and then he celebrated the feast day for Padre Pio down at San Giovanni Rotondo. So thanks for your attention to me. Next up is Dom Bettinelli, and he'll go through getting started. But we had a question first. Where's this book available? If you just go to Amazon.com, you can get it, or you can go to a website called churchandnewmedia.com, which is the title of the book. Great.
Scott, I was wondering, could there be less life?
Okay, thank you, Scott. So again, my name is Domenico Bettinelli, but just to have a little humorous take on it, social media takes many forms. And people often say that it's frivolous or whatnot. So to kind of use an analogy, here's one I saw online recently that was pretty good. Twitter is, I'm eating a donut. Facebook is, I like donuts. Foursquare, and some of these you may not know, I would encourage you to go look them up later. This is where I eat donuts. Instagram, here's a vintage photo of my donut. YouTube, watch me eating a donut. LinkedIn, my skills include donut eating. Pinterest, this is a new one. Here's a donut recipe and a beautiful photo to go with it. And Last.fm, I'm listening to a song about donuts. And finally, Google+, I'm a Google employee who eats donuts. It's a bit of a humorous take on it, but it kind of gives you the idea of all of these different social media sites have a slightly different spin on what they're about and the culture that goes with them. They each have their own unique way of presenting material, of people sharing. For example, Pinterest is a brand new one that's really getting some interest lately, and it's very visual. It's for people who are more about visuals than words, and that we know that there are different ways people learn and acquire information. It's a good one for that. So it kind of gives us an idea of we can't be everywhere. We have limited resources, and so we want to kind of choose the places we can be most effective. As we get more resources or more interest, we can spread out, and over time, some of these places may go away. You know, Facebook is gigantic now, but in 10 years, Facebook may be gone. It'll be something new. AOL used to be the largest media company in the world, and now it's a shadow of its former self. So that's just a bit of a humorous introduction to social media. So you may ask yourself, I already have a website. Why do I need social media? Well, your website is a destination. It's where you want people to come to receive information, to get information about you. Social media is a gateway. It's the way to bring people to your website. It's the way you're reaching out. Just like you don't expect people to wander in the doors of your church, we have to go out and invite them in. St. Paul, this is a picture of St. Paul at the Areopagus in Athens, preaching to the crowds, to the Gentiles. The modern Areopagus is Facebook, Google+, Twitter. That's where the people are. That's where, we'll say the Gentiles are today. So is it just about, you know, getting information out there, getting people to follow us, getting people to be on our sites, to get our follower counts high, our number of friends? No, it's got to be about relationships, and more importantly, meaningful relationships. It's about creating a dialogue, creating an engagement with people so that they feel a part of our community. They want to be a part of our parish community. It's very difficult these days. When my parents were first married, they lived in a neighborhood. They knew their neighbors. Their community life revolved around the parish. Now it's much more difficult. People are much, in many cases, in my generation and younger, less geographically situated in their community. And it's much more common for an online community or extended or geographically extended communities to be part of that. And so online is an essential tool in that. Now you may ask, for the priests in the room, I'm a priest. Do I need social media? Well, it's a good question, because I get this question often. Not every priest needs to be on Facebook or Twitter or Google+, because, frankly, some are concerned. In today's climate, that it could be dangerous for themselves. Interacting with people online, you may not be comfortable with it. People misunderstand. Written communication can be misunderstood without the personal, in-person cues, emotional cues. But if you set things up properly, a social media account does not present any significant danger to a priest or even a pastoral associate, a lay minister. You can keep your private life private and maintain a public profile as well. I know some priests who, they would love to connect with just family on Facebook, but they don't want their status updates to be read necessarily by everyone in the parish. So how do we keep that? That can be done. We're not going to get too much into that today, but in a future topic of a forum, if you're interested in that, put it down in your feedback. By the way, we could cover that sort of thing. How to for individual ministers, pastoral associates, priests can be effective online. So not every priest or lay minister or pastoral associate needs to have a Facebook, Twitter, or Google+, but every parish does. Your parish needs to be out there. Your parish needs to be present in this modern Areopagus. So the other question I get is, how do I find the time to maintain a social media site? I'm very busy. I barely have time to get done the things I'm already doing. It doesn't take a lot of time, and you don't have to do it yourself. You can. There are tools for automation. You can do it in as few as 5 minutes a day, or 30 minutes a week, and you can spread out the workload among many people. And in fact, we recommend that you find trusted volunteers or pastoral associates or whomever to take on some of the workload. And with the automation, we do something on the Boston Catholic Facebook and Twitter where we have a priest of the day, where we ask for prayers for a particular priest each day. We do the readings from Mass each day. I program those in once a month, and those get automatically transmitted each morning. I don't have to sit there and remember to do it every morning, sit down and type those in. I take 30 minutes once a month and get those all in. There are tools for doing this, and we'll talk a little about those in a little bit. So that's the why. Now let's talk a little about actually how do I go about creating my social media page, and we'll go through Facebook, Twitter, and Google+, just to kind of go through the steps that are involved. Some of you may already have a Facebook page, so this may be a little bit old hat, but Facebook changes how it does things regularly, as you may be aware, and some of the ways pages work now, it might be worthwhile to review, and you may actually pick up some tips and hints along the way while we do this. So the first thing we need to consider is the difference between a page, a profile, and a group. A profile is an individual, a person. Each of you would have a profile. According to Facebook's terms of service, this must be a real person. It should not be an organization, should not be a group, your parish should not have a profile. Profiles have friends, okay? Organizations have fans, sometimes they're called, or likes. You need to have a profile in order to create pages or groups. And this is an important point, which is that you need to have a personal profile, which is set up in your name, in order to set up the parish Facebook page. And it can be tricky because you're saying, well, that means it's now associated with my personal information. It's just the way that Facebook works. It would be better if they allowed organizations to set things up directly, but Facebook and Google Plus both require you to have a personal profile first. But there are ways to set it up so that it's not dependent on any one person's login information. We'll look at that in a second. So a page is a brand, a community, a cause, an organization. A page is mostly a broadcast medium, although there is commenting and feedback, and people can also post information on your Facebook page, the wall, they call it. People can like your page, but they do so of their own accord. You can invite them from other ways, put it in your bulletin, that sort of thing, but you can't go out and like someone, or like you can friend someone and have them confirm that friendship. A page can't do that, so people have to come to you on their own. Now, a person could have both a personal profile, in which they have a small group of friends, say family, and a personal page. A page can also be for, say, a famous person. There are a lot of celebrities who have pages, but there are also some public figures. Like a priest could have a page on which he puts more public information that he wants to share with people, more evangelizing sort of things, homilies or inspirational messages, and then have and that would be public to anyone, and a profile that's just private for a select number of friends and family that he would put more personal information. A key difference is pages are visible to everyone on the internet. That's a good thing. That means that when anyone searches on Google for you, your Facebook page will come up for your parish. Profiles, by default, are not public. They are private. And you can set that privacy to be very restrictive so that no one can see anything on your Facebook profile, or wide open so that everything you ever put is available to everyone. And then a group is for small group communication. It can be open so that anyone on Facebook who wishes can join. It can be closed so that they have to be invited or approved, or it can even be secret, which means that only the members know about it. And secret sounds pejorative, but it's not. It just means that only the members know that this group exists. This could be useful for youth groups. It could be useful for religious ed. I know that there's at least one parish that has a religious ed Facebook group. You could use this for, say, even the secret group. You could use for parish committees. I don't know that you want to discuss confidential financial information in a Facebook group, but there could be ways of having a finance committee using a Facebook group, or various other committees in the parish. Okay, so let's actually go through the steps of how you would create a Facebook page. So first, you need to have a Facebook profile. On your Facebook news feed, the default page that opens up when you open Facebook, you look on the left for pages, if you see there, and you move your cursor to the right of the word pages, and the word more appears. I don't like when things appear and disappear. You don't know they're there until you hover over it, but that's how Facebook does it. When you click it, this is the page that comes up. It lists all your pages, and these are the pages I manage or help maintain here at the Archdiocese. You would click the button that says Create a Page, and you would get this. Now you have to choose what category your parish would be in. Now, you actually do have two options. You could choose local business or place, or company, organization, or institution. If you were to click on either one of those, a subcategory, church exists as subcategory in both. For the Archdiocese, we chose company, organization, or institution. But local business or place may be the better option for your parish, because the way Facebook defines it, it's a place you can actually go, a place you can, a building you can enter. This actually is good for something called Facebook check-ins, which we'll get to a little later, and it gives you a little more flexibility for something like that. All right, and then moving on, once you've chosen your category, you choose your subcategory like this. You pick a name. We suggest something both distinctive and intuitive, like parish name and town. I wouldn't do just your parish name alone, or anything too cryptic, because it would make it difficult to find your parish's Facebook page. If you were to put something, say, like excuse me, St. Mary's, which of the hundreds or thousands of St. Mary's in the world is your parish? Is this one? It would be too confusing. And then, of course, you would also agree to the Facebook terms of service here. Moving on, you would select an image to represent your parish on this Facebook page. You could upload a photo of your parish. If you need a photo of your parish, we have, in Pilot New Media, we have photos of every parish in the diocese, very nice, professionally taken photos. You can see some of them up on the walls as you come in and out. We can also provide that same photo for your parish website if you need one. And then you would go and you would invite your friends, and these are your Facebook friends that you might already have on your profile, to like your page. You can upload a contact list to email people to ask them to like your page. it would be good to get a good chunk of people who like your page right away. Because once you have 25 people who like your page, you can set up a custom short Facebook address that you can give out to people. Like what we have for the Archdiocese, facebook.com/Boston Catholic. If you don't, it's something like facebook.com/pages/ something really long that no one could recite. So if you get 25 likes, you can put in a shorter name that's more memorable. So it's good to to kind of get your friends and family to like it right off the bat. Okay, add your basic information, and now you have a Facebook page. Now you're not quite done yet. There's a few things you want to take care of, a little housekeeping you want to do before you go public and start posting things right away. So you click on the Edit Page button in the upper right, and you come to these basic permissions, and there's a couple of things you want to do here. One, you can limit who can post on your wall. Sometimes you don't want just anybody able to post. You just want to have just official administrators for the page to post. Or maybe you want something a little more free-willing. You let people post stuff, prayer requests or that sort of thing. You make that decision yourselves internally. There's also a profanity filter that prevents people from using certain words. We have it set to medium on the Archdiocesan one. The high is a little restrictive because it prevents any word that might offend anyone anytime, which is a little too restrictive. Excuse me. And you can also blacklist certain terms and that sort of thing. So you want to look at this. This is an important page. And then add your basic information about your parish, your mission statement, your founding date. The more information you put here, the easier it is to find it for people. When people are searching on Google or Bing or any place else, this sort of information is what's going to bring it up in the search results. So the more you can fill out, the more accurate information you can fill out. You could put your mass times here. You could put information about youth group activities, that sort of stuff. Anything that's sort of static and standard information you could put in here. And that's also the page where you would set up your custom URL, your facebook.com/Saint any name, anytown. All right. And then this is another important setting. You want to make sure you have at least 2 administrators for every Facebook page. And that pretty much is true for almost every social media. You want to make it sure that no matter what happens, someone moves out of your parish abruptly, goes on vacation, decides to hold your page hostage, that they don't have, there's no one person that has sole control over your social media sites. 2 is good, 3 is better. I'm not sure what the limit is, but it's probably more than you care to have. You can have a whole bunch of admins if you'd like. And then there's also an option to be able to choose whether the identity of the administrators is shown on your Facebook page. You may like to have that people be able to approach you at your church to say to talk about what's on the page and give you information to post there, or you just don't want to be identified. It's up to you. One of the things Facebook does really well is analytics. Because Facebook users put so much information in their profiles about themselves, Facebook can tell you a lot about who's liking your page. So for the Archdiocese, we know a lot about the breakdown in the gender breakdown, the location breakdown, the ages of the people who like our page. And it can help, some of this information can help you understand who's coming to your page, and thus what kind of content you want to tailor for the audience. One question I often get, and I want to kind of address it here, is, someone shared, like I posted something on my Facebook wall, and someone shared that posting to their friends. There's a button you click share, and it goes on to their Facebook friends. But I can't see what they said about it. How can I see what they said about it? You can't necessarily. Unless you're friends with that person with your personal profile, you don't necessarily see what they're writing, and that's just the nature of the beast. If they were to copy and paste it into an email, it'd be the same sort of thing. So it would be nice to know what everyone's saying, but you don't always have that option to do that. Okay. I wanted to give you an example of a parish that's doing this really well. I've picked a parish that's about as far away from the Archdiocese as I can. I don't want to play favorites. This is St. Anthony's in Fresno. Facebook.com/St. Anthony Fresno, and they use their Facebook page quite a lot. In fact, I know the lady who administers this page, Lisa Hendy, if you might know her, she's an author, and she's a founder of CatholicMom.com. But this is her parish, and she maintains this site, and they do a lot of the information you'll see. A couple of these entries right here, they have from their website. So they pull information from their website and put it here, and that way people don't have to remember, oh, I should go check out the website to see what the latest news is. Now when they're going to Facebook every morning to look at their news feed, it's right there in the midst of it. It's sort of like their custom newspaper with their parish information right there in front of them on that. A couple of things I want to point out. If you look on the left, you see they have 870 like this. They have 870 members of their parish who like their Facebook page. They have 72 people talking about this, which means recent comments and shares. It's a sort of fuzzy term talking about this. But the other one right below that, 2,377 were here. That's Facebook check-ins. There's a new location-based social media. Foursquare, if you've ever heard of it, is one of these. What it is when you is going someplace and checking in. I'm here. I'm at this place, and sometimes saying something about what you're doing at that place. Their parish has started something where they encourage folks to check in at the parish. I'll go into a little detail in a few minutes about why, but notice that number. That's a very high number when you think about 870 likes and 2,300 check-ins. So among other things that they do is they have prayer requests. Parish members can put prayer requests up there. They have announcements of the ministry schedules, of the lectors, or the altar servers, links to the news from the diocese, that sort of thing. So all kinds of content. It doesn't have to just come from the parish website. It can come from anywhere. And this is their website that they use. And there's the top of the page, and there's a break in the middle. And down at the bottom of the page, you see they have a prominent link to their page on Facebook and Twitter, because this is a substantial way, a very important way that they communicate with their parishioners, is through Facebook and Twitter, and they want to encourage people to follow them in those places so they can receive information without having to remember to go to their site to get that info. Okay, what kind of content should I put on my Facebook page? Well, one we already talked about. Check-ins at the parish, photos, prayer requests, discussions. You can put a question up for discussion, or something to talk about an element of the faith, or a fun question. Something about what are you giving up for Lent, and have people in the parish respond, or that sort of thing. Who's your favorite saint? That sort of stuff. Create discussion, create community dialogue. So I wanted to go back to the check-in. One of the things that St. Anthony's in Fresno has done is they have announcements at Mass encouraging parishioners to check in. You may not want to do this in your own parish, but this is something they're doing. They want people to check in their Facebook page. Why? It's not simply an ego boost. Not only does it drive the parishioners to the Facebook page so that they can then start receiving that information, it's a low-friction form of evangelization. Think about it. For me, when I go to my Facebook page on Sunday afternoon, I try not to go there Sunday morning, but on Sunday afternoon, I often see my news feed is full of people who've checked in at their church. So-and-so at, Holy Name in Cleveland, Ohio, so-and-so at St. Anthony's in Fresno, so-and-so at, St. Joseph's in Holbrook. And you say, wow, all these people are going to Mass. And then all of their friends who may or may not be going to Mass anymore, all of their family who may be lapsed Catholics are seeing, hey, you go to Mass? You go to Mass every week. I see you check in every week. Hey, can I ask you a question about the church? It's a sort of low-friction way of having your faith be visible. So it's kind of nice. And you can do a Facebook check-in. You could do Foursquare check-ins. There's various different social media types of ways of doing this. But that's just one way of being creative with these sorts of things. Photos are really great. I'll just go quickly with this. Photos, Facebook uses algorithms to determine which content they push higher up in your news feed. It's not simply chronological, the most recent first, or that sort of thing. They're trying to determine what you want to see first, and one of their algorithms says photos are things that people want to see, whatever it is. So if you can post photos with your content, and as you saw, St. Anthony's Fresno had photos on each of their entries, it pushes your content higher, and so that's good for your content. Okay. Another thing you could do, you could have a separate page for each ministry in your parish. You could youth ministry, religious ed, young adults, a mom's group, the men's group can each have a Facebook page or a Facebook group, depending on how they want to structure it, whether they want to have the discussion sort of thing or more of an announcement sort of thing. There's no limit. You don't have to have just one page for the parish. It's entirely up to how you want to do it. And again, like I said, photos are very important, and web links to other content, not necessarily to your own site, but maybe to an article in the Pilot or something on the Vatican's news site, news.va, or something interesting out there, something from the USCCB's website, usccb.org/conscience, on this current controversy on the Health and Human Services mandate. You could post these links to inform parishioners, and these links, because you're using links, the algorithms push that up higher as well. So, right, push it up higher. Yes?
When you say the algorithms push these things up higher, in terms of you get priority?
Right. Like I said, they're trying to determine what it is that people want to see most when they go to Facebook, and the things that people click on most are photos and links to web content outside of Facebook. Simple comments are less, comments with just status update, I'm eating a donut sort of comments are less interesting to people, obviously, and so they get kind of pushed down in the algorithm, whereas stuff that has a greater interest that cause people to click are the stuff that gets pushed to the top. To the top of the news feed. So on a Facebook profile, if you go to a default page, I wish I had it up right here, but you would see all of your friends and the pages that you've liked and all of that sort of thing listed, their latest status updates. And it doesn't do it in chronological order. It does it in a way it's trying to think ahead of you. What is it you want to see? Sometimes it's not very smart about it, but you kind of have to adapt to how they're doing things. We can't force them to do it our way, but yeah. All right, another piece of content I recommend, to add related pages to your own page's favorites. Now, what I mean is, when you go to another page on Facebook, say you go to the Boston Catholic page or you go to the Vatican page, near the bottom of the left-hand column, you'll see a series of links, and at the top it says, Add to my page's favorites. When you click on this, you will see a listing, and it will show your pages if you have more than one, and you can add it to that page. And then on your page, there'll be a box on the left-hand side that will have a series of links to other Facebook pages that you've added to your Facebook page, which is a way of creating this community, a web of links back and forth. They'll often add you to their Facebook page, and now people will see other good content that you want to recommend. Catholic TV, the Good Catholic Life, the Pilot, One for Boston, that's the Office of New Evangelization for Youth and Young Adults. You can find all kinds of good content that you can add there, and again, that's good content that other people are producing. You don't have to do it all yourself. Okay, another way to get good content, use we call these @ tags when mentioning other pages, so that your content shows on their page wall. Now, what do I mean by that? When you're in your status update, you type @ and then something like, start typing Boston Catholic. And what would happen is, and in this case I did @ and Catholic, a list drops down of potential matches. And as you type, it narrows the matches down. Then you finish your status update and post it. This is what it looks like on your wall. There's a link to the Good Catholic Life's Facebook page, and then your content related to that. This was the Good Catholic Life did a program on Catholic Schools Week, and we put this on the Diocesan Facebook page. And this is what shows up on your page. on their page, the same content shows up on theirs. And now people who go to their page see that. When the Bruins were in the Stanley Cup playoffs, the Cardinal Sean had a little wager with the Archbishop of Vancouver. I don't know if you heard about that. And we had the Bruins flag flying from the pole out here. Father Brian Parish was behind that, and we put that picture on our Facebook page, but we also put it on the Bruins Facebook page, and that actually got a lot of attention, and people were coming through, and I think there was even some media stories as a result of that. So I mean, that's the sort of thing you can do. You're creating this web of links. So that's Facebook. There are some other more advanced topics we could cover, which we won't right now or at this forum. Things like using Facebook ads to target audiences. Again, because Facebook knows a lot about every person who has a profile, their ages, their genders, their religion, their political leanings even, you can target your Facebook ads very, very specifically. And so I've heard of parishes that put their Mass times in a Facebook ad to all Catholics who live within a 25-mile or 10-mile or 5-mile radius of their parish. Again, there's more to it, and so we can talk about that in a later time. There's ways to auto-post material from your website to Facebook. Again, that's one of those automation tools we've been talking about, so that you don't have to manually do things twice. Type it on your website, then type it on Facebook, then type it on Twitter. So there's ways to automate that. And then even to use things like Facebook events. You use those to invite people to events, say a parish mission or a youth ministry event or parish picnic. You can organize things, excuse me, and even put up photos after the fact, to kind of chronicle the event. So, but those are some topics we'll cover at another time. Now, moving quickly into Twitter, which is the other big social media site we want to talk about. Twitter can be described in a couple different ways. You could call it a microblog. It is a social network. Some people refer to it as like a real-time information network, or even a social search engine. Because Twitter is there's something like 20,000 tweets a minute. 20,000 tweets a second that are flying, and I think during the Super Bowl it got even up into the 6 digits. There's so many people actively posting things that Twitter often has the news before the news has the news. So Twitter has broken the news several times recently. I think the first big one was when the plane crashed on the Hudson River, crash landed at. There was a picture that someone took with their cell phone that was up on Twitter before the emergency crews even responded, never mind the news media was reporting on it. They were reporting off of the Twitter picture. So Twitter is, because there's 500 million users located everywhere, it is this real-time information network. So, but when you boil it down, Twitter asks this question: what's on your mind in 140 characters or less? Why 140 characters? Not to go too far into this, originally it was conceived as something that would be used exclusively via cell phone text messages, and those have a technical limitation of 140 characters. That limitation actually became the beauty of the service, in that you hear brevity is the soul of wit. I'm not sure there's a lot of wit on Twitter, but brevity certainly is there, and it's forced a lot of creativity in spelling, but also in abbreviation, and it's even spawned some businesses that exist to shorten URLs, the web addresses, so that they can fit in to these 140 character tweets, posting photos and videos and that sort of stuff. So it has become, what was a limitation has become the beauty of the service. So let's look at some of the jargon that's specific to Twitter. Excuse me. They talk about direct messages, or DMs. This is a private message between two users who follow each other. You can't direct message someone who's not already following you. Direct messages can be dangerous. I would never put anything in a direct message I wouldn't want to be public. There have been politicians recently who've gotten in trouble for that, among others. But there are some famous ones you all probably know. So then there's following, which is like Facebook friending. But it's one way, or it only has to be one way. It doesn't have to be a two-way thing. So follow is the act of following someone on Twitter, which means seeing their tweets. That's what we call them. Their tweets in your timeline. That's what we call the news feed or the timeline. There's no obligation to follow back, but some say that it's good manners to follow people back. And the good news is you can block people who are obnoxious, spammers and other ne'er-do-wells who are trying to annoy you. You can block them, and you can even report them so that their accounts get deleted if they're actually abusive or of some sort like that. Hashtags. Now, this is an interesting aspect of Twitter. Words or abbreviations that are preceded by the pound sign in the body of the tweet act like a subject line or a topical index for tweets. So it's often used for tweets about specific events or particular events. So, for example, on Sunday, there were a lot of tweets that went around that were pound SB46 for the Super Bowl. And so that you can then do searches on, I just want to see tweets about SB46 for the Super Bowl. Or I just want to see tweets about the Patriots. Or, the State of the Union, that you saw a lot of, pound SOTU. It's also become a way for people to be somewhat witty, again, as far as they consider themselves witty, to kind of put ironic statements or that sort of thing. But, excuse me, it's actually a very nice way to categorize or put a subject line to help people find things. So, for example, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold and into allergies. If you had a parish mission, excuse me, actually, someone give me some water, George, if you don't mind. I'm sorry. You could do, the hashtag parish mission. Last year, I asked people on my personal Twitter account on Ash Wednesday, take a picture of yourself with your ashes and post it with the hashtag of hashtag. And a lot of people were doing it. It was a lot of fun, and it was one way of, kind of being Catholic in public again. Excuse me. Something called retweeting. And that's a way of forwarding someone else's tweet to those who follow you. You see interesting content, you want to share that with the people who are you're following you, so you retweet it. And there's a certain format that's involved in that. Replies or mentions, thank you, Anna. If you put the @ symbol, again, nice of them to be consistent across services, and then another person's username in your tweet, it means that user will usually get a notification that someone has written something about or to them. It can be used to create conversations or to send a public message to someone. Sometimes you see this with brands. I had a problem with my KitchenAid mixer, and so I sent an angry tweet about my KitchenAid mixer to @KitchenAid, and they responded, and they actually asked me to give them a call so they could fix it. It's actually a very neat little trick because you're embarrassing them in public, and so they want to fix things. But it's a way of getting notice or attention or having a conversation with somebody. So how does this work in practice? So you say you write your first tweet. Check out my first tweet. You could add a hashtag of Boston Parish. This is a Boston Parish's first tweet. You could send it to Boston Catholic. Hey, Boston Catholic, this is my first tweet. Boston Catholic, you could send it as a private message to us. Don't tell anyone, but it's our first tweet. And then Boston Catholic could turn around and retweet it, and it would have RT, your username, and then the content of your tweet. And then it would go out to all their followers to say, hey, this parish now has a Twitter account. If you are interested in what they're doing, follow them. So that's the short of it, of how you would do it. And so how would you set up a Twitter account? It's very simple. It's actually simpler than the Facebook, so we'll run through it fairly quick. First, you go to twitter.com, and then you see there the little boxes there to sign up. You'd enter in your name, your parish name, keeping in mind there is a character limit I wanted to show there. Don't worry too much about that space right now, because this is not what's going to be your Twitter user handle. This is, if you were an individual, you would put your real name here. But if you're setting up for a parish, you would put the parish name. And again, that's the big difference between Twitter and Facebook. For Twitter, you don't have to have a personal Twitter account before you can use set up a organization's Twitter account. So that's a big difference. You need to have an email address, a unique email address, so that you would have, excuse me, so for example, there's an email address and you password, and then that's your username. This is where that fourth line down is where you would put in your username that you want to be your handle on Twitter. The interesting thing is also with Twitter is you can actually change this at a later date if you decide that's not really working out. I want something different. I didn't realize it was going to be similar to someone else's or too long or that sort of thing. You don't want to change it very often because then people don't know who you are or where you went. But you can change it. It's not permanent. You want something distinctive, memorable, easy to remember, and short. The shorter the better. A lot of the good ones are taking the very short ones. But remember, you have a 140 character limit. If someone's going to send you a message, that includes your handle, or retweeting your, if they're retweeting you, that includes your handle. And then so the content of of the rest of the message gets shortened if you have a very long username. So you want to keep it brief. Again, brevity is the Twitter watchword. And then they take you through some steps. They'll show you some of the basics of how the service works. It's actually a nice little tutorial. Then they want you to choose your first 5 accounts that you're going to follow on Twitter. These are ones we recommend. Catholic TV, The Good Catholic Life, Pilot New Media, Cardinal Sean. Cardinal Sean doesn't actually tweet himself very often, although when we were in Spain for World Youth Day Madrid, he did send out some tweets. I'd like to get him doing it more often because I think it would go over very well. I think people would be interested in what he has to say. But right now, it actually we auto tweet every Friday a link to his blog, to his latest blog entry, and then of course the Archdiocesan Twitter account there at the bottom. And then it shows some recommendeds based on ones that you've already chosen. And then there's a lot of good folk down there on the left. Then they go through a whole bunch of other steps and things you probably don't want to care about. Celebrities you might want to follow and that sort of stuff. So down at the bottom left of the bottom left column, there's a very well hidden link. Skip. So just look for that and skip through till you get to finally here, where now you have your Twitter profile. Will have sent you an email to your email account. You're going to want to click on the link to confirm it. If you don't get that in your inbox within a minute or two, look in your spam box. If it's not in there, you can have them resend it. You could start sending tweets right now, but we want to, again, take a few more minutes to get things set up properly. But first, let's take a look at the structure of the Twitter homepage. There's your name at the top, your profile image, the number of tweets, your followers, who you're following. They're suggesting who to follow. Go over to profile. You can choose a photo, a photo of your church. There's some limitations on size and type. If you have any type of technical issues, like trying to get this stuff to work, give me a call, send me an email. I can help you with this stuff. It's pretty easy. I'm happy to help. Fill in all the other profile information. Again, it's always good to have that stuff filled in. Just the one thing to note at the bottom, the option to automatically post your tweets to Facebook. Again, one of those automation things to save you some time, save you some work. There's a similar function on Facebook to send stuff to Twitter. It's really, you kind of decide one or the other. I wouldn't do both because then you just end up in a round robin. Sending the same tweet back and forth. And there are third-party options, which we actually use the Archdiocese. I'll mention the name of it in a minute or so. And we could get into that when we talk about more advanced topics in a later forum. But suffice to say, the key here is to ensure that you post the tweets to your Facebook page and not to your personal Facebook profile. When you click on that, it's going to come up with some options. And you want to make sure it's not going to your timeline. It's going to the parish page. So, as always, click Save Changes. This is what the diocesan Facebook page looks like. We have the seal as a profile. If you look at left, everything in the blue, that's actually a graphic image I created in Photoshop. All that text, it's not actual selectable text. It's a graphic image, and you can create a background that goes in the back of your Twitter page, and then you can provide all kinds of information there that wouldn't normally be available otherwise. And then you can see an example of a retweet. We retweeted a message from BU Catholic, the student center at Catholic Student Center at Boston University yesterday, about a speaker, and that's what a retweet looks like down there, just for reference sake. All right, and then what kind of content would we use on Twitter? Well, like I said, event-based tweeting, which was things like a parish mission or a youth ministry outing or a parish picnic. And by that I mean you could either live tweet it. So, for example, someone here could be live tweeting the things that I'm saying, or people could be having a conversation over Twitter. You see that a lot. It's sort of like the underground communication of conferences and workshops. People talking with one another, hopefully only nice things about the speaker, as while he's talking on Twitter. And then you would use a hashtag to kind of keep track of everything that's going on. And then other things, like you see, breaking news announcements from the parish, retweeting, creating conversations, curating content of community interest. And what I mean by that is finding other content on the internet shared by other people that people in your parish might be interested in. There are bishops who tweet. Bishop Chris Coyne, who some of you might know from, he's originally from the Archdiocese of Boston, now the auxiliary bishop in Indianapolis, is a prolific tweeter. He's every day he tweets a little bit of homily about the readings of the day and maybe something he read in the Divine Office. And that's good content for his followers, but it also could be good content that you could retweet to your parish if you find the content valuable. Okay, and then you can follow others and follow those who follow you. Okay, so that's Twitter. Now Google Plus, we're going to run through it real quick because I don't want to spend too much time on it yet because it's still in its infancy. There's a lot that could change, and I'm not necessarily recommending that you set up a page today, but it's good to know about it because it may be important very soon. 3 things about Google Plus that are worth mentioning. Search engine optimization, video hangouts, organizing and segregating your audience. These are the 3 strengths of Google+. So search engine optimization. Google is the search engine. It is the biggest. It's where everyone goes. It's the word that people use for searching on the internet. Did you Google that? So because Google's own property, Google+, is tightly integrated into its search, any content that you post about your parish on your Google+ page is going to show up higher in searches than anything from Facebook or Twitter or anywhere else. That's key. There's some other aspects as well, and we'll get into that in a few minutes. Another thing, they have a feature called Video Hangouts. It's a tool built into Google+, which makes the ability to have a webinar-style chats with a group of people or a whole audience of people very easy, very low barrier to entry. It's very easy to do. And then the other way, like Scott had mentioned earlier, the way that they've set up, the way you set up your friends, you can organize and segregate your audience into particular interest groups so that you can tailor your message for particular people. It makes it very easy to do that. So let's get a little into how you would go about doing this. The key is you need a Google account, which is essentially a Gmail account. If you have a Gmail account, then you're ready to go. You just log in, and now you have your Google Plus page. This is plus.google.com. That's where the site is. Or you could set one up. As with Facebook, and unlike Twitter, but as with Facebook, you do need a personal profile to set up a parish page. So that's one of the things to be aware of. I won't go through the process of setting up a personal profile, but once your profile is set up, you see on your what's essentially their version of the news feed, the lower right, create a Google Plus page. You'll do the same sort of thing you did on Facebook again. You'll pick a category. The categories are almost the same, I think, by design. Again, we recommend local business or place. The nice thing is with the integration with Google Maps, they will try to find you. Enter in your parish's main phone number, and they will try to find your parish and pre-populate all the information about your parish on the page as much as it can, which is nice. It saves some steps. So once you've set up your page, this is what a listings of pages would look like. This is my personal Facebook Google Plus page. Under my name is a drop down of I have 6 pages set up. and then you could choose the page from from here, and you would take you to the page. This is what the this is part of the Archdiocese page. You see, stream is the equivalent of news feed on Facebook, and those are the circles following. We have Catholics in the Archdiocese, VIPs, which we don't have any in that, but some of these are defaults that Google sets up. Team members, that'd be people on my team. Catholics in general, people who are not necessarily in the Archdiocese, and so on and so forth. We have ones for priests who are from Boston who are on Google Plus and that sort of thing. If I clicked on one of these, I would read stuff, postings just from those people in those circles, and I can also send things to just the people in those circles if I choose. I don't want to get too much into that. It's sort of a rabbit hole of trying to explain Google Plus for the first time. But I'm just trying to get you introduce you to Google Plus to be aware of it. This is the diocese Google Plus page itself. Shows some of the content, similar content. Some of the things you'll notice, you can be creative with the photos that go across the top. I tried to kind of split a photo into 5 so that it goes across. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell. I didn't do a very good job of that. I'll let George do it next time. You can let it auto-populate with whatever photos you post to your profile, to your page. You can see that people can comment. They can share, which is similar to retweeting. They can +1 your content, which is like similar to the Facebook like, except +1 affects how your content shows up in Google search results. The more people that +1 your content, the higher up it shows up in Google. So Facebook has algorithms for how things show up on its site. So Google has algorithms for how things show up on Google, which is an even bigger deal, which is why Scott was saying that the Google Plus could potentially be a much bigger deal than Facebook, because everyone uses Google. That's just one of those things. Can't emphasize enough that how that important that idea is. I'll just give you a quick look at what the circles interface looks like. You would these are everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people who are in the various circles for the Archdiocese, and you would add people you just drag their name into the circle, and it adds them to that. They can be in more than one circle, as you wish, as appropriate. One thing I often do is I ask people. I set up a post once in a while, and I say, choose the circle you feel you're most appropriate in. Are you a Catholic in the Archdiocese? Are you a priest in the Archdiocese of Boston? Are you just a Catholic? Are you just an interested person, non-Catholic? And then they categorize themselves, and then I move them into the circles that would be appropriate for them, so that they receive the content that they're looking for. However, most of the stuff we post on the Archdiocesan page is public, which means it goes to everybody. Anybody who's interested, anybody who's on Google Plus can see it. In the future, I could see that we might have times when we want to just send out messages to particular groups, and you could do that in your own parish. I just want to get a message out to the religious education parents, or the second grade religious education parents. And I do that through my Google Plus page. You can also send emails. So you can have the posts go out via email too. There's ways to do that. So when you post to the page, it also can send an email to someone who's not on Google Plus. So there's that possibility as well. So this is why I think Google Plus is so important. This is a search on Google for the word Catholic. Just a regular plain vanilla search that doesn't have, where I'm not logged into Google. Just if some random person went and searched. So Catholic Online is the #1 return on a search for Catholic. They put a map up. Map for Catholic shows actually this area, probably because I was logged in here. News. If you look in the lower right, if I don't know if everyone can see it, but in the lower right, people and pages on Google Plus related to the word Catholic. Scott Mance, who I know, was one of the first people I know who was signed up for Google Plus and had put Catholic prominently in his profile information. When anybody searches for Catholic on Google, his face they see his face there. That's significant. Marketers are going crazy for this idea. If I want the keyword for computer, or if I sell computers, or phones if I sell phones, I want my content to be right there. That would normally be a paid ad on Google and be an expensive paid ad. This is free because Scott is on Google Plus. He has a lot of people in his circles. He's circled by a lot of people, and Catholic is a prominent part of the content he posts. This is what's significant for your parish because you want your parish to be there on your significant keywords. Now, if someone's logged in on their Google account, like mine, you can see a few differences. Catholic Online is now pushed down to the bottom of this window. The top one is Catholic on Wikipedia. Why? Because someone who's in my circles shared content from the Catholic Wikipedia page. So Google is tailoring the content, the search results, to people that I already trust, that I know, presumably, who are in my circles. If someone I know liked it, then maybe it's something I want to see. You see at the top, that top circle, if I clicked at 60 personal results, and the first one on the left there is the Archdiocese. So if I clicked on that, it would show just results based on the individuals in my circles. You can see that it's tailored to content from my circles by the little figure, the little profile of a person there next to the title. And again, people and pages on Google+. All right. So what kind of content would I put on Google+? Well, the same sorts of things you do elsewhere, but the big difference here, I think, is the video hangouts. You got meetings. Everyone's got meetings. You got meetings at your parish. You know, if it's a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night, I'm guessing you probably have a meeting at your parish tonight. Maybe you could do away with the meeting at your parish with a hangout, a video hangout. Some organizations are already using video hangouts to replace in-person meetings. You use your your computer's webcam, and you can have up to 10 people in a video meeting, or if you just want to broadcast, if it's one to many, you can have an unlimited number of people. It's called a hangout on air. This is what it looks like here when you the interface. There's the prominent image up top, and then the people in the hangout down the bottom. Google uses a special software that determines who's the most prominent speaker in the group, who's the primary speaker at the moment, and moves their image up to the top. And then as someone else takes over, it moves theirs up. It's all automatic. They're adding some collaborative tools so that you can all be working on the same text document or a spreadsheet or a sketch even. So there's some tools that you can work on. So again, you could be at home working on spreadsheets for the finance council without having to schlep out to the parish hall or what have you, and on a Wednesday night. And this is not just a marginal thing. The White House has already started using video hangouts, the hangouts on air for community town halls and other things like that. They did one after the State of the Union. So this is not just a marginal thing. This is a big deal. One additional point, I didn't put a slide for it, but Google is making a big push on this, and they have actually a local guy named his name is Zach Yeremian. That's an Armenian name, and I'm having trouble remembering exactly how it is. But he is the community outreach coordinator for Google in the Boston area. And he actually reached out to me as the coordinator for the Archdiocese new media properties. Came in for a meeting. We sat down and talked about how we could use Google Plus better. And he wants to meet with any parish that would like to have a Google Plus page, and about how the ways you could use it, what tools they have available. Excuse me. What tools they have available, what kinds of content you could post, how, train you on how to use it more efficiently. They've helped the Patriots and the Globe and the Herald and the Bruins and hospitals, and I think he's connecting with Catholic Charities, trying to get them to set up Google Plus pages and show how they can use it. Google Plus is still in its infancy. It's not as robust as Facebook and Twitter. It still needs a few tools to be added to it to make it as easy to use. I still struggle a bit with it. Some of the automation tools aren't there that are there for Facebook and Twitter. So as it becomes more mature, it's going to become a better tool, and we may push, ask people to move that way if it becomes a better tool than Facebook. The one truth about the internet is it's always changing, and the big dog on the block today is going to be out in the gutter tomorrow, because it's just Facebook's going to have its $1 billion IPO, and then in 10 years, who knows if they're going to even be around. It's just the way things are. So you've always got to be kind of agile, thinking about is this where I need to be at this time? Okay, now let's talk about some best practices that for social media in general that aren't specific to any particular one. Photos, lots of photos. Photos are important. Photos grab people's attention. I know we're talking about algorithms like photos. That's because people like photos. People want to see photos of other people. They want to see people in their parish. They want to see photos of events. So the more photos you can use in your social media, the better. Divide up the responsibility for the different audiences in your parish to lessen the workload for any one person. Have the youth minister posting stuff about youth ministry. Have the religious ed DRE posting stuff about religious ed. Divide up the workload. Don't put it on any one person. Don't do it yourself. Get people to help with it. Don't make the mistake of thinking social media is just for teens or young adults. The fastest growing demographic on Facebook is women in the ages of 50 to 65. This is no longer just a phenomenon for teens. In fact, a lot of teens I know don't even hardly use Facebook anymore. They're onto something new, or they're only in text messages. Facebook is mainstream. Twitter is mainstream. Spend some time getting a sense of how others use the platform. Learn the culture of the network before you jump in. Every community has its own quirks and ways of doing things. It's worth it to spend some time to kind of understand how others are doing it. You don't want to offend sensibilities. You don't want to violate etiquette.
Do you have any examples
Of how to do that, or who to follow? What I would suggest is take a look at the followers of, say, the Archdiocese Twitter account, and just kind of take a look at what's there. We kind of follow back everybody, or we used to, but you get a good cross section of people who are interested in following Boston Catholic. So just take a glimpse at it. Kind of see what's going on in our timelines of the people we're following. That might be the way to do that. I may come up with a list that I could give. Twitter does lists, for example, that you can curate other accounts. So I have a list of all diocesan Twitter accounts that I know of, and you could follow that and look at that for a while, that sort of thing. So that might be one way of doing it. Start slow. Don't go crazy right out of the gate. Some would suggest 4 to 6 posts a week on Facebook, 4 to 6 per day at the most on Twitter. I'm not sure a parish needs to do 4 to 6 per day on Twitter. You might be able to do a couple a week, but some people go crazy, so you don't want to overdo it. Keep an eye out for good information that other people are posting. Not everything good comes from within our community. Good stuff can come from outside. Look for things to reshare. Find your unique voice and personality. This is important. This is not like old media where we have an organizational voice. People expect authenticity. They want to feel like there's a person on the other end they're having a conversation with. And so you want to have that voice. You want to give it a personality. Even if you don't use your own name, you want it to be distinctive. Encourage staff and volunteers to be active in your social media sites. Please like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, post stuff, comment stuff, like stuff, that sort of stuff. Encourage them to be the leaders, so that everyone else in the parish follows along. Promote it to your parishioners. Put it everywhere. Put it on your letterhead. Put it on your church sign, maybe. But put it on your posters and all that stuff. If you got to get it out there, if people are going to use it, and that's what I was saying right there. So links from your website, letterhead, email signatures. What about spammers and trolls? Spammers and trolls. Spammers are people trying to sell stuff. Trolls are people who just like to be obnoxious. What do you do with it? You don't have to tolerate them. In the materials we gave you is a sort of decision tree that the USCCB gave out at a recent gathering they had of diocesan communications leaders. It's a useful sort of tool to use to say, is this someone we should respond to? Is it something we should delete? Should we ban this person? something to keep in mind. You'd think the diocesan pages would get a lot of those. We don't. We get a handful, one a week maybe, of something I have to delete. Oftentimes just people who are confused. Very, very rarely do I get someone who is mean-spirited. And, if we don't attract it, I don't suspect your parish is going to get much of that. But, keep watch, keep aware, watch out on your site. You need to monitor it on a regular basis. Even if you're not posting, you need to be looking at it to make sure, has someone commented recently? Is there something I need to deal with? Okay. Some tools that you could use. I use, for the diocesan pages, a website called hootsuite.com, which sounds like something from Willy Wonka. But it's actually a tool that allows you to post to multiple social networks at once with your content, and even to schedule updates and posts so that you can set things up ahead of time and not have to deal with it later. There's a free version, there's a $5 a month version, and then there's a really expensive version. Unfortunately, Google Plus is only available for the really expensive version, which we don't even have yet. So hopefully they're going to trickle that down to the less expensive version at some point. But there's a free version that, and the other nice thing it does is it lets teams of people maintain the social media sites through their web browser interface. There are apps. TweetDeck is one that I use. I'm not going to get too much into it. We're running a little long. But there are apps for your computer. There's apps for your smartphone. There's something called Twitter Feed, which allows you to automatically post from, this is what we use to post Cardinal Sean's blog to his Twitter account, a tool called Publish Sync, which lets me automatically post to Google+, Facebook, and Twitter all at once. It's an extension that goes in your web browser. And then there's more. There's so many more tools. Again, when we do a more advanced forum, we'll cover some of those in depth. Again, these are some of the other social media that are out there. They all have their value. They all have uses. We use Flickr, YouTube, Pinterest is the big, and then the next big thing is it hasn't even been announced yet. Somebody's in a garage or somewhere developing it on their little computer, and they're going to be a billionaire someday. So it's a matter of just being aware.
So our third presentation today is by Steve McDevitt. He's the Director of Information Technology for the Archdiocese of Boston. He joined our team here at the Pastoral Center on Patriots Day last April. Prior to that, Steve had worked in a few different roles in senior IT leadership at FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. So you think we have problems in the Archdiocese of Boston sometimes with things and with IT. Well, Steve has overseen some of the IT-related stuff for the natural disasters in this country. Prior to that, Steve had worked in the White House, the Executive Office of the President, and had worked as an IT consultant for Booz Allen in his most recent assignment. So he's added a tremendous amount of skill and strategic thinking to the way that we approach IT and other business issues here, and it's my pleasure to welcome Steve McDevitt.
Thank you. One quick story I tell about the power of Twitter. There are 6 people alive today in Haiti because of Twitter. And when you say that, people stop. And what happened after the earthquake in Haiti, which was about 2 years ago, people in the rubble had the wherewithal to tweet. And what people fail to realize is the infrastructure of Haiti was pretty much decimated. One of the things that actually remained intact was the cellular network, and people were still capable of texting. And people on the ground recognized that people were tweeting. And when the first responders got to Haiti, one of the things they did, and one of the problems they had, was understanding the tweets because they're all in Creole. And so they actually were retweeting the tweets to a group of folks who actually are up here in Boston. And they were translating them and sending the information back to first responders in Haiti. And so there are people walking this planet today because of Twitter. Like Scott said, my name is Steve McDevitt. The other interesting thing is I have 3 teenagers, And I have an 18-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 16-year-old. And if that's not scary enough, they've all kind of grown up on social media and Twitter and Facebook. The power of those platforms is quite amazing. That being said, my wife and I have been very keen about what goes on and what my kids are involved in, and it's very interesting. They interact differently than we did when we were their age. The amount of information they have at their hands is vastly different than when we were their age, and the amount of trouble they can get into unintentionally is quite significant. A couple other tidbits I share. I know somebody who was saved from an attempted suicide because of something he posted on Facebook, and somebody reached out to him at a time of crisis, and that worked. I also know somebody who lost their job because of something they posted on Facebook, and I know a kid who didn't get in this case, a White House internship because of a photo of him as an 18-year-old holding a red Solo cup that was posted on Facebook. And those are things that people think are pretty innocuous, but they do have impacts on our lives. What I'm here to talk about today is the guidelines that exist today, and there's really two. In June 2010, the USCCB published a set of guidelines, and that's really what they are. They're guidelines. The environment and the terrain. I mean, even for a lot of us, it is changing on a constant basis. Last week, Facebook announced their IPO, and if you go actually read their 186-page filing, there's some very interesting things in there. Facebook, for people who use Facebook, Facebook probably knows more about your kids if your kids use Facebook than you do. They know where they know the music they like, they know the friends they have, and over time, the amount of information that Google, Facebook, and other vendors have about you is quite significant. We'd like to recognize the power of the platform and using it effectively in ministry, in management and administration, and communication, and that's really where I think we ought to be going with this. So like I said, there's really two sets of guidelines. The USCCB guidelines are out on their website, usccb.org. If you Google USCCB social media, it's a few pages. They're very, very general guidelines. They're not specific to Twitter, Google, Facebook, or anything like that. They're just very general guidelines. Over the past couple years, a set of draft guidelines have been developed here that are basically an offshoot of the USCCB guidelines, and they're available. I think they're going to be available on the Pilot New Media site as part of this presentation. Okay. Just like I said, they are guidelines. They're not exhaustive. They're general, common sense rules of the road. There are other codes of conduct and rules and laws at the state level and the federal level that apply, and those need to be taken into account. HIPAA, FERPA, the Massachusetts law governing privacy. If we were in certain other venues, there's another law called COPA, which is related to children and interacting with kids under the age of 13. As a general rule, these are very broad guidelines, and what I think what has to happen, and some of the questions that I'm sure are going to come up is as people put their foot into the water more and more, the best thing to do is figure out from the best practices that others and what others have learned. I was just talking to Dom a minute ago. Why is it important to correctly establish your accounts, whether on Facebook or Twitter? That's real important because people change jobs, people leave, and in a tragic sort of way, I have two people who are dead, who are friends of mine. One still has a LinkedIn account because it's pretty much impossible to get rid of a LinkedIn account unless you're the individual and nobody really knew his password. And the other one is a friend of my son's who was killed tragically last year, who still has a Facebook account. And they're still out there. And on the one hand, the LinkedIn account is kind of bizarre because that's a professional thing. But on the other hand, the Facebook account has been very therapeutic for, especially when teenagers are involved in the death of another. It's an interesting way and an interesting dynamic for them to communicate and interact. The creation of account is very important so that you manage and control that, and that's some of the things that we're going to talk about here. The USCCB guidelines sort of follow into 3 categories pretty quickly. They sort of categorize them as visibility, community, and accountability, and we'll talk a little bit more about those later. And actually, if you read the guidelines, there's a pretty good explanation of what is involved in that. Within the USCCB guidelines, it really breaks it down into, defining what are the appropriate boundaries of communication. And that's specifically, whether it's a group to individual, group to group, a multitude of groups, ensuring that the code of conduct is posted as part of that. I think it's important, and the guidelines present this as important as sort of a Christian community of discussion and discourse. The rules that exist in personal discourse should also exist in the social media as well. That being said, as Dom and Scott pointed out, I mean, there is still problems and issues that do arise on occasion, and there are remedies, right? There are remedies for us to ensure that the discourse and the comments that people post are appropriate to the site and the venue. It's important to provide instructions to personnel on what they shouldn't be posting. Today there are guidelines in the Archdiocese. Here at the Pastoral Center we have a appropriate use policy, specifically things, and I think it was mentioned earlier, should you ever post, if you had a Facebook page related to a finance council or a parish council, what should you post and not post there? One thing you shouldn't post there is any non-public financial information. That site is completely inappropriate from a security perspective for managing control over financial information. Could you post minutes to meetings? If those are generally available and posted publicly and made available to parishioners, that might be an appropriate forum, financial information. Could you post minutes to meetings? If those are generally available and posted publicly and made available to parishioners, that might be an appropriate forum. Some of the things which we're not really going to talk about here, we are looking at solutions to provide a more collaborative environment to parishes, especially as we get into the pastoral planning. There has to be a better way for us to, as parishes and collaborative groups, to communicate sort of on the management and administration side of the diocese and the parishes, as opposed to the evangelization and ministry side of the diocese. There's recommendations in the guidelines for how to deal with fans and different types of people, and to provide, excuse me. I'm trying to recognize what this says. And lastly, it's important to remember that that posts are to a broad audience. I have had issues in the past where my children have posted things that are inappropriate, and I have no problem telling them to go take it down. I've also, in the same kind of context, we have to remind ourselves as adults and as other people who are posting on sites that sometimes things get posted inappropriately with people without really taking into account what the broader meaning of something might be to a different group of people that might not be sort of in the group or in the know. I think Dom said earlier, I mean, there's a different kind of language that is used on Twitter. And if you, especially if you follow teens, if you follow teens and their text messaging and tweeting, it's almost a different form of language that your high school English teacher would probably be turning over in her grave right now about. It's really important to recognize that sometimes and often, or not often, but sometimes things can be taken out of context, and so there has to be sort of that adult eye that's placed on comments that are posted on the site. The general rules of the road that come out of the guidelines are, follow diocesan and parish guidelines. Know that even personal communications by church personnel reflect on the church. It's important to separate the two. Personal communications belong on personal web pages, belong on personal Facebook pages, belong on personal tweets. Ones related to ministry and official belong on the official one. And as Dom was talking about earlier, what needs to happen is the correct way to create the site so that you can ensure that the two are separated. And they provide some general guidelines of always write in the first person. And in a lot of ways, because we're sort of a community of a faith community, it's important that people share who they are and what their involvement is, and they're not hiding, trying to hide behind pseudonyms and things like that. Another important aspect is to be very mindful of posting copyrighted material, especially pictures and graphics that you might find from another website. Just because it's posted on another website doesn't mean we have the ability to repost it on our website or on your Facebook page. And so you need to be mindful of that. Otherwise, they may turn around and issue what is known as a takedown notice, and Facebook or the service provider could then shut down the site. Especially that's really true when it comes to video and music that comes from large media organizations. Again, do not divulge confidential information, and that's everything from you don't communicate between a teacher and a student's parents over grades via any of these sites. You don't disclose financial information about what's going on in a parish or a community or organization across these sites. You don't use credit card information, date of birth, social security, children's home addresses, things like that over this environment, as that's not appropriate. And then from the UCCB guidelines, it's basically, practice Christian charity in everything that you say on these sites. With respect to minors, there's a whole set of rules. COPPA.org, COPPA.org is a site that lists that's the Children's Online Privacy and Protection Act. The UCCB guidelines also have very specific rules on dealing with minors. So you all understand, COPPA basically says that you can't even create a Google account or a Twitter account or a Facebook account for any kid under the age of 13. So it's important to recognize that if you think you're going to be using Facebook to deal with your younger sort of preteen groups, that's not even an option. It really isn't. And then in the teen years, you really need to basically go into that arena very, very, very carefully. Parents must have access to all information related to their children, and then all transactions and things like that. Here it also lists the COPPA site as well. That has all the details that exist within the sites.
Go back a second. The next to the last one, what's considered approval? Stand up for it.
So with respect to the last site, don't cite others, post photos or videos of them, link to their material, etc., without their approval. A lot of, and this is sort of dated, because within certain contexts, like within Facebook, there's a mechanism that you're really not posting. If I add a link to somebody else's content on Facebook that they've posted on Facebook, it's kind of within that realm. But I think if you had your own website and you were actually pulling down a large chunk of content and posting that on your website, that's really what this is talking about.
What's considered approval?
There are pre-established, very short, requests. I'd like to obtain permission to use this image on this website or this brochure. And we actually had a recent incident in this building. It wasn't an incident, a need in this building. One of the other organizations found a very, very nice picture of a stained glass window. And one of the problems they had when they wanted to use it in some publication material, and they actually followed the route of trying to find where the copyright was, and they kind of found it, but they couldn't find out who to ask permission for. And in the process, they found something similar that was in the public domain, and they went and used that. And so, I mean, there really does need to be some respect to copyright that occurs, especially when you're posting it on more of your site as opposed to when you're reposting something on Facebook or retweeting something on Twitter.
I know, I mean, it's a big thing. I mean, I went to a workshop on it last October, but I know of a person who paid for the copyright for something, didn't realize it had an expiration date. It was still up on their website, and a couple of years later, and somebody came after her, she had to pay several $1,000.
Right.
Because she didn't even know, she thought she'd paid for it.
Right.
And that was a religious community.
There are, and the question was related to, there are stock media agencies that will sell you content for use on sites, used in commercials, used in media. Sometimes it's for a limited time. Very infrequently is it for in perpetuity. And so again, you need to read the fine print on that.
It depends on how much you pay for it.
Right. Again, recognizing that there are people, good Catholics, that as part of their personal, evangelization, proselytization, believe that it's important for them to have their own personal website that reflects their personal values. And the USCCB guidelines, it just is a reminder that, that's, separation of a personal website from an official website of an organization. It's important to be mindful that and times where people have tried to obtain the identity of organizations, not just Catholic organizations, but other organizations, and try to have a sort of a fake website or presence related to that. There are remedies, both legal and through the providers, to remedy some of that sometimes. And if you have instances, Dom or myself would be a good resource to deal with. With respect to the guidelines is for all personnel, volunteers, priests, deacons, religious, regardless of where they work within the diocese. These guidelines are meant to apply. And it really gets down here to sort of some real nuts and bolts kind of things. One is when establishing a social media site, and I think we spoke about this earlier, it's really important that the site be created correctly and that the parish organization retain sort of grasp on the site. One mechanism to do this by is, and it's important to have, as Dom said earlier, multiple administrators to the site. Oftentimes, you can have multiple. It's not just two. In some cases, it's more. What we've done here on a couple of occasions, we actually created a third. It's not related to a person. It has a non-specific, a very specific but non-individual name and a very complicated password, and all that's written down, put it in an envelope, and put in the file cabinet. If something were to happen, if somebody were to leave and the next person forgot what their password was, you still have sort of the backup solution on getting access to managing the site. Use your official parish email address whenever possible. Make sure that the passwords are kept in a central location. There's other password management solutions which work just as well. Don't use your personal profile. It's important to realize that, and especially on Facebook, if you set up the site incorrectly and sort of hang it off a personal page and don't do it correctly, it's very hard to sort of unconfigure that process. Please make sure that all the content reflects our Catholic faith and values. Make sure that the account settings, and this is something that's important, especially for Facebook. To be honest, I mean, Facebook is in the business of advertising. And then they provide a platform by which 800 million sets of eyes come to it every day, and the IPO that's going to happen I think reflects the value in the marketplace of what Facebook is. That being said, there's a balance that Facebook has to provide, because on the one hand, people are willing to give up a certain amount of privacy in order for the ability to connect with their high school buddies and to keep track of old college, friends and, their children and grandchildren and things like that. But Facebook privacy policies do change. And so as they change, it's important to recognize that you need to sort of stay on top of that. There's been 2 or 3 major changes in the privacy policy of Facebook in the last couple of years, and each time, in some respects, there's been sort of a public backlash on some of it, but in the end, it really is necessary for people who understand the model to basically make sure that you have your settings set up right. Make sure the code of conduct is available. We want people to communicate, we want people to participate, but at the same time, we want people to do so in sort of an authentic sort of way. Be mindful that we don't want to be using our sites for advertising. It's interesting. It's in with the back of our bulletins we use advertising. I think someday we're going to get into a model, or maybe we'll get into a model where there's some equivalent in the web world for parishes, but I don't think that Facebook right now in its current incarnation is in that mode. And then personal accountability. People need to be responsible for what they write, and people need to be responsible for what they wrote and what they post. And for parents in the room, I think that, and as a general rule I share this, I have no problem calling up the parent of a friend of my child that posts something inappropriate. No harm, no foul, no judgment, but maybe they're not as mindful of what's going on, and it's just important for them to know. With respect to compliance, I said before, we need to be mindful of what is what's public information and what is administrative, private, and confidential information. We shouldn't, the intellectual property of the parish, of the Archdiocese, in terms of plans, in terms of finances, in terms of parish census and membership. Those kinds of things need to be safeguarded, and you need to be mindful of that. I know some parishes have a very wonderful photo directory of the parishioners. There's a parish down in Virginia that I used to be a member of, has a very wonderful, but you had to opt in, right? There was no automatic putting people's photos in the directory. Be mindful of there will be people who will post things that are obscene. The goal is not to get upset by it. Realize that it's sort of a nature of the open forum that exists. All of the sites let you to take down and identify things that are obscene and spam, and the system will handle it. It's also important to continue to separate your personal and ministerial sites, just to keep them separate. With respect to conduct with children, this slide basically says it all with respect to what we're doing right now. Make sure that the same boundary issues that exist in person-to-person communications exist in the social media communications, which means for adults to minors, there should really be no direct person-to-person communication. It really has to be done, and I think, especially for youth ministry and religious ed, it really has, in my opinion, it really has to be done in the context of we have a page where we provide information to the group and let the group interact. But it shouldn't be a means by which we have a direct connection that's sort of again, I think everything there is pretty straightforward. Children, remember, minors can't give permission to opt into some of this stuff, and so that's why it's important that anything that we do related to minors, it requires parent involvement to ensure that that's being done correctly. Personal site, for our CAB, it's the same as the USCCB, which is we We don't use our we don't use it for professional or ministerial purposes. We separate our personal from our professional, and we don't represent the parish or the opinion of the Archdiocese on your personal site. Last, it's important that everybody, I think, and again, as the community evolves and as people start thinking through the process, it's important that the community monitor what's going on, seeing what's working, seeing what's not working. Again, I think that in a mode of sort of fraternal correction, it's appropriate for people to point out, you know, when things go astray. Sometimes on some sites, there's kind of a dogpile effect. You know, somebody, you know, there's a very interesting chain of conversation, and somebody will, you know, sort of lob the hand grenade into the middle of the conversation, and everybody turns and dogpiles on the and so the crowd sort of addresses that sometimes. The tools themselves are very effective. The question earlier was, what's the best tweet I've ever heard? The best tweet I've ever heard from a priest was last February, and it was on a Thursday before the, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, it's like the 10th Sunday of Ordinary Time, which the 10th Sunday of Ordinary Time, or is it the 11th Sunday of Ordinary Time, only occurs like every 18 years. It's only when Easter's really late. And Father Jim, who's the pastor down at St. Joseph's in Herndon, tweeted on Thursday, he said, "Come to Mass on Sunday, shortest readings since 1992, right? Which was true because in that cycle, the last time, the 10th Sunday in Ordinary Time, and I guess the 10th Sunday, or was it the 9th, I don't remember. Literally, the first reading is like 2 sentences, the second reading is like 2 sentences, and the Gospel is like 2 sentences. And truly it is. It's like when they were creating the lectionary, they must have got to the end and said, "Oh, we got this one Sunday to deal with every now and then." And so, but it was his way, and he had a knack for dropping these sort of little tidbits, and he usually did it on a Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday of the week, and it basically was an invitation to think about something before Sunday.
Thanks, Steve. Hang out with us if you can, because I'm sure some of the questions will be for you. 3 websites on this last slide. For those that want to share the recording of this session with others in your parish or some friends in other parishes, or for copies of the handouts, that first link, pilotnewmedia.com/parish social media, is where all the materials from today will be available electronically. That was one of the questions we did get from those who were watching online. Whenever we have seminars like this and you can't make it here to Braintree, we broadcast the live stream on this website, bostoncatholiclive.com. And certainly all of the videos that we record from seminars here are always on bostoncatholicvideos.com, and this one will be there too. There were 2 other questions that came in through the web stream. One is, Steve, could you repeat what you said about taking pictures of youth? What are the regulations on that? Or was that you, Don?
I think they're actually going to ask me to repeat what I said, but you can get some blanket permissions. You can set up an opt-out sort of system where you tell them ahead of time, you get permission ahead of time at the beginning of the school year of some sort, that to sign a permission for occasional photographs for promotional purposes, and then at public events, public venues, you know, where tickets are sold, the general public is there. There's not an expectation of privacy from photography.
Great. And then there was another question about, is there a template for good Twitter backgrounds?
So if you Google Twitter background or Twitter Photoshop template, you'll find a million of them. Twitter is they've decided to be like Facebook and change every once in a while. So those backgrounds do have to be change. So I'm not sure if the one I used is going to be useful for very much longer. But if you just Google Twitter Photoshop template or Twitter background Photoshop template, you'll find something.
Great. And then questions from you all? Yes.
If you were to recommend, if you were to recommend starting with one of the 3, which one would it be?
I would say that Facebook would be the one to start with. Twitter,
because it reaches the most people. And
it has the widest reach, and it's the most flexibility. When you combine the flexibility, reach, ease of use, Facebook would be the one to start with.